Hey, Chris Jenkins, joined by Mr. Cart Talk himself. I don't want to violate any agreements. Can I call you Mr. Cart Talk?
Yeah, that would be perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. I've accumulated quite a number of nicknames over the years, so we'll add that one to the list.
Can you share a few of the random ones? I know Cam was so famous for doing
being on Mac and Bone, I get America's long snapper. We had some running joke where I said I was a thumper on the punt team, so they started calling me Big Thumper.
Okay.
Redundant J was one that Olsen gave me, and it's sort of stuck around. Hecker calls me the Redundant J.
What's the Redundant J for?
So my name's JJ Jansen, but my middle name is Richard. I should be JR. So everyone goes, well, what's the second J for? I said Jansen. So they're like, you're Jeffrey Jansen. Like, yeah. So the Redundant J, it's kind of an extra one. So, yeah, there's a few that I've picked up over the years. You hang around a spot long enough, you kind of pick up a few extra names.
You've been here a few years.
I've been here for a while. It's been good. It's gone fast. It's gone really fast.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember, but it was about exactly 2 years ago that we last talked.
Mm-hmm.
It was right at the, I guess, end of the season, because it seemed like it was almost exactly 2 years ago. And I want to tell you about the progress. So during that interview, I mentioned that I was doing my prep work, and I had Googled you. And I think the first two out of four things that came up was, who's number 44? And then it was also, how old is he? That was 2 years ago, right?
Yeah.
We've progressed. That is no longer the top two questions.
Good. I'm glad we've gotten beyond that. But, yeah, the number's the same and the age has continued to go up. But, yeah.
They now want to know, how much do you get paid?
Okay.
So I guess that's the longevity of it. Right?
League minimum for probably 16 of my 17 years I've made league minimum. 1 year, we were talking about this the other day, 1 year I was a restricted free agent, and the team gave me a tender which was well in excess of my league minimum that year. Uh-huh. And there was a number of extensions. There was a lot of contracts being negotiated, and they said, why don't you just play for that dollar amount? And so that was until like 3 years ago, that was my highest paid year. But the other 16 years I've been league minimum, which is nothing to sneeze at, but they can't pay me less, at least on a game-by-game basis. So, yeah.
And the second part of that was, and where does he live, which I think is kind of weird.
Yeah, Charlotte. Charlotte, we lived not far from the stadium for about 12 years. We moved about 2 years ago. Our family's grown, as you might imagine, over the years. So we're a little further south, a little closer to the kids' schools.
Yeah.
So I have a little bit longer drive into work. But the kids and my wife have a much shorter drive to school and activities and all those things, which is the priority.
You know, let me give you a little fist bump. The things that we do for the kids.
Yeah, exactly.
I now have a commute that I absolutely do not like to get to work.
Yeah.
But the schools and stuff for the kids, it's better.
When you're newly married and we were new to the city, you know, the priority kind of becomes my job, and being close to work. That becomes kind of the thing that you base your life around. And then we start having kids, and we've had 4, and we have a middle schooler and 3 lower school kids, and now the priority becomes their friends and their friends' families. Like, that just becomes what you do for life. And so that becomes the thing that you tend to put kind of in front of others. And so as it's turned out, I have a little bit of a longer drive, but our house and its location is well suited for our kids and our family.
Hey, let's give a shout out to the family, because we talked about that. I know you're a big family man. So the wife and what's the makeup of the kids? So
my wife and I have been married for coming up on 16 years. This upcoming summer will be 16. Although we have known each other and been dating for over 20. We have 4 kids. We have 2 boys, 2 girls. We're in the birthday season right now, so once everyone has their birthday here, we'll be 12, 10, 8, and 6.
Okay.
And like I said, middle schooler, 3 lower school kids. No one's become a complete butthead yet, but I've been told that comes. But my kids are perfect, so that probably won't happen. And so yeah, we're in the heart of it. It's fun.
Let's switch to football. my photographer caught an awesome picture of you this past Sunday in Tampa.
Okay.
Yeah, and it may not be the first time, but it was just the first time of me seeing it, which was you having a prayer right before you went out the tunnel.
Oh, yeah.
In Tampa. So I just wanted to ask about that, your pregame ritual and what's that like. And I also got, well, let me let you go through that one first.
No, that's a weekly thing. So when I was in Notre Dame, we would always, you see a lot of guys do this now in the NFL, right? You run out of the tunnel, they run to the far end zone, and they pray. And we don't get that luxury in the NFL from a specialist standpoint because we go out early to warm up. And so, before introductions and stuff like that. And so I thought it was important that I pray right before the game. It's football, it's so physical. It's so violent. There's so many unknowns. It really, in my opinion, drives you towards Jesus because it's like, I'm not in control of much of anything out here. And I had a few teammates, one in particular, off the top of my head, Jason Baker, would pray in the tunnel beforehand. And I kind of just, you end up as a young player kind of mirroring what you see. And I've done that before every game of my career. It's a quiet moment before anything really starts to thank Jesus, ask him for discernment, for protection, pray that he allows me to do my best to help the team win. And so that's been kind of a fun part of my pregame routine, but it is a very important part. It's not routine in the sense that I have to do it to be successful. It's a moment of reflection of without him, I'm not doing any of this. So it's a great opportunity to give thanks and continue to understand where the source of all of this comes from.
And that seems to be prevalent on this team as far as faith. I don't know. I mean, that's just me on the outside. Maybe It's been the same over the years.
We've had a tremendous group of believers. This group of men in particular, I think, is as strong a group of believers as we've had.
And Canales is big, right?
Yeah, there's a lot. Now that's not to say everyone, not everyone is, but there is a great respect for faith.
Yeah.
There is a lot of guys growing in their faith, and one of the reasons I believe that the Lord has left me in the locker room is because I was tremendously mentored, discipled, and now it's time that I do the discipling. And we've got a lot of older men, older by NFL standards, young men by any other standard, who take it seriously, the role of mentorship, discipleship. Jordan Matthews has been a great sort of running mate, if you will. And what's really cool, like in our locker room, is the Lord has left a lot of us in different rooms. So Johnny and I kind of have more access to more guys in the special teams world. Jordan Matthews, he has a tremendous access to the tight ends. He's also had a tremendous access to the African-American guys in our locker room, because when you look like someone and you talk like someone, those relationships are easier to build. Adam Thielen has been tremendous in offense. Andy Dalton the same way. And over time, it's really cool watching the impact all of those guys have on the younger players. And all of a sudden, it's like, I'm not in charge of Jesus in our locker room. All of a sudden, a guy I've never talked to comes over and says, "Hey, can I lead the team in prayer today?" I was like, "Absolutely." But I have to ask, like, where did that come from?
Yeah.
He goes, "Jordan came and talked to me, and I want to lead prayer." It's like, awesome.
Yeah.
It's like, so it's really cool when there's a bunch of guys scattered throughout the locker room that come from different backgrounds, look different, talk different, but they all love Jesus. And I think it's what discipleship's supposed to look like. That the unifying moment is Jesus, not, hey, this is the cool Jesus clique over here, or maybe not cool Jesus clique, and these are the non-Jesus guys over here. Like, it's a group, and our hope, I know Jordan would say the same thing, Andy, Johnny, Nick, lots of guys on the team would say, our goal is to play great football, but it's also to lead people to Christ and give them encouragement in their personal walks and journeys, in their marriages, in their fatherhood, all those things.
That's really awesome. Appreciate you sharing that with me. Really, really awesome. I also know I get out there a little early too, because I'm doing a pregame show. So I'm out there about 10 o'clock in the morning. And again, you might do this all the time. But I saw you out there this Sunday in Tampa doing like, I think you did sprints and some other things. Has your pregame, as far as that physical part, changed recently?
The physical side has changed. So early in my career, I did not really like go out on the field and warm up. I kind of just did it right before we snapped. Mm-hmm. As I've gotten older, as some of my coaches that I've bumped into over the years, competing coaches have noticed, it's like, takes you a little bit longer to warm up. I was like, no, but yes. Like, no, but yes. As I've learned that there's more aspects to the game than just snapping.
Yeah.
I want to run well. I want to change direction well. I want to help the team. I understand that at 38 years old, those things come less naturally. But I also want to be a guy that my teammates see as trying to get better in all facets of my game at all times. And about 4 or 5 years ago, I've said this publicly a couple of times, I made a promise to myself that if I was going to keep playing, I was going to see how good I could get. And that wasn't just snapping. That was running, change of direction, blocking, rules, situations. Like, I was going to get good at all of it as best I could.
Yeah.
And I wasn't just going to be the guy that says, well, I'm a good snapper, and that's all that really matters at this point. Like, I want to be a good teammate, a good player. So get out early, do my best to get loose, get ready to roll. It certainly helps my body, gets rid of some of the pregame anxiety and nerves. I still get nervous before every game. That doesn't change. But that's been part of my routine has been pretty consistent over the last 4 or 5 years.
Okay. What's our cutoff time again for you?
Probably like 250.
250.
I probably have a little wiggle room on the back end.
Okay.
I'm long-winded, so we might get going here.
Well, for football, you've been here for a while. I was just curious for you, kind of playing on that mentorship thing as well. Mm-hmm. When you have a kicker that gets into a slump, what kind of role do you go to play in helping that, or how do you handle that?
Well, I'll tell you what. Pete Rose, who's a great baseball player and just passed away this year, he has a great line. He said, this is for hitters, right? And I think it applies to kickers and it applies to snappers. You never tell a pitcher that you're in a slump. You're in a lull, right? And in hitting, there's one of 6 things you do when you're in a lull, right? And it's like move up, move back, move in, move out, choke up, choke down, right? And so, no, there's no such thing as, in my opinion, there's no such thing as a slump in kicking, snapping, punting, quarterbacking, right? At worst, you're in a lull. And the question is, hey, what are those things that you can focus on to perform at the highest level you're capable of? And so what you really try to do, you take on a little bit of a coach role, mm-hmm. and you pull on your own personal experiences. And in my opinion, you just start asking questions. Not what's wrong, but if you were to do this, what changes? If you were to do that, what changes? What about this? What about that? Because ultimately, if you've ever done anything athletic or anything skill-wise, the best changes or the best fixes are always things you figure out on your own. It feels right to you. It feels right to me.
Yeah.
If I want to throw a curveball, you can't tell me how to throw a curveball. I've eventually got to put my fingers on the seam and throw it and be like, oh, that feels right. And it does what I want it to do. So when you're going through a lull, it's reps. It's being thoughtful about, hey, am I doing the things that feel right to me? And then if not, you gotta find it. And look, all of pro sports is surviving. Can I survive to the next week, to the next game, to the next year? Because everybody has moments of struggle. The best guys, the best players, they are the ones that have survived the most. There's nobody in year 17 of a quarterback or a punter or a kicker or a wide receiver that hasn't had a drop or a 4-interception game. Nobody's done that.
Yeah.
So it's surviving and it's learning and it's bouncing back. So from a mentorship role, it's being a supportive ear and just hopefully asking the right questions, and eventually those people unlock what was always inside of them anyways.
I like it. All right, we're at 2:48, so I want to be mindful of your time and try to get through a few more before I get you out of here. Dan Morgan, Dave Canales. What stands out to you about those two guys in this organization?
Well, and the third person I would add into that list is Brant Tillis, right? So they've kind of made a nice triumvirate of leadership, right? And I think it's been really valuable. Dan has been a very steady, respectable, strong leader at the top as a general manager. Brant has come in. He's new. Obviously, we knew Dan for a number of years. He's been the same guy as he's moved up through the ranks, not only in the league but in the NFL. Brant brings it just kind of a fresh energy. Certainly, I'm sure he's incredibly valuable to Dan as they've worked to navigate to make our roster better. Dave is impressive in his positivity, in his steadiness. He is very process-oriented. But where that shows up is he has been impressive to me in that as we've gone through the highs and lows of the season, he's been the same guy. In losses, he's a truth teller, but he's positive. In the wins, he's a truth teller and he's positive. He's not riding the wave, saying, hey, you guys don't ride the wave, you be steady, while he personally is riding the wave. He's steady, and naturally what I think all guys look for in a leader is someone that is dependable, consistent, and they are doing their very best to be the person that everyone looks to and says, he doesn't feel worried, so I don't need to feel worried. I think that's true in parenting. I think that's true in football. Can I have a leader that rides the wave calmly? He does that really, really well.
Okay, we're going to speed round us
through
the end here. Cart Talk. Whenever I was told, hey, JJ, Cart Talk, T-shirts.
Yeah.
Is there something going on with
So we're working.
People are coming to me.
Oh, wow. That's good. Good. We're working on it. We're going to get some shirts. I didn't know that these things would be so popular. I had many requests this December for Christmas gifts. Cart Talk Christmas gift T-shirts. So we're in the process of getting those. And my hope, I haven't really told anybody this, but my hope is that we will have them available to sell, and then hopefully we can maybe even, whether that goes to Panther charities or something that I'm able to kind of lead and direct, that hopefully people can buy them, but it also, the profits would go to, a good cause. We'd have to work all that stuff out. Obviously, the Panthers have been tremendously kind with me in terms of providing me this platform to be able to do that on their channels, which has been really cool. Yeah. And my goal all along was to get reps in the broadcasting world. And unselfishly was I really wanted to show off the great personalities we had in this organization. And it was a little rough COVID in that time. I don't really feel like our city knew our guys. And I knew we had great personalities. And so that's been the goal. I think our city wants to see what Bryce is like and what Robert Hunt's like and, Ashawn Robinson and Andy and Hecker and, they want to know what these guys are like. And so hopefully we have an opportunity to do another season 3 coming up, hopefully, and with T-shirts. And I'm going to ask for a little bit less gray in my beard on this year's image. But other than that, they kind of nailed it. They had the backwards hat, the hair, the whole bit. So
now you asked Bryce about if you had LeBron's number. So I want to ask you, what celebrity's number do you have in your phone that we'd all be intrigued about?
I don't have any celebrity phone numbers. I really don't. I wish, right? I don't know if I have any celebrity phone numbers.
Is there a media guy that you'd love to have on Cart Talk?
A media guy? Oh, so my favorite broadcaster, besides Olsen, which we obviously had, I love Colin Cowherd. I think he's fantastic. I met him I was actually at Christian McCaffrey's wedding, and I bumped into him. He was riding a bike. I don't think he had a clue who I was, but then all of a sudden I said my name like a second time, and it sort of clicked into his head like, oh, I've heard your name. He's very well-versed in the league, and so it kind of clicked. I was like, okay, this is cool. I had a 3-minute conversation with Cowherd, who I think's brilliant in terms of his essays and his monologues. I think he's really good. But there's all kinds of guys that I would love to have come on and do it, and obviously I wanted to have a largely Panther bent, but hopefully have some good ideas. I'm getting more creative as the couple years are going on in terms of who we can get.
Well, I'm going to be one of the media people that throw my hat in there and say, hey, JJ, after football, if you want to come do something, that our live pregame shows are really good.
All right.
We actually have a lot of Panther guys that'll stop by on their way walking into the stadium.
All right, that's good to know.
That would be great.
I feel like this is my public service. I would like to play 3 or 4 more years. So hopefully, if you're hiring in 2028 or 29, we can probably talk about that. if you're not hiring that far out, we'll put a pin in it.
We'll have to have a part 2, obviously,
Sure,
because of time. But LeBron James spoke recently about he could play 5 more years.
Sure,
he probably won't. I know with you before you said it comes to the wife, talk with her. The kids are getting older now, so they kind of realize what Dad's doing. We're trying to get 40.
So my wife and I have had a somewhat serious, but there's truth in every joke. That she's allowed to sort of have a lot more say in my career once we hit 40. So I'd love to play 3 or 4 more years. Right now, as a family, realistically, every single year at the end of the year, we collectively come together as a family. First, me and my wife, and then with the kids, and say, "Hey, is this something we want to do?" Because it's a big undertaking. It's an undertaking for the entire family.
Yeah.
We have a great job. We make great money. It's a ton of fun. It's a blast. But for 6 months out of the year, Dad's gone every weekend. There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of responsibilities that fall on Laura and the kids. It's hard. So we've always viewed our career as a family effort. And so every year we've talked about it. When I joke that at 40, she can have more say in it, that was probably something we laughed about when I was 25, and now we're almost there. And so it's like, okay, this is serious. But she loves them still playing. It's hard. It's not always fun.
Yeah.
From what is required of our family and what falls on her, which is most everything at that point. But we really enjoy still everything that the league and this team brings. It gives us a tremendous platform in the community, which we're very appreciative of. And like I said, the Lord has been very kind and gentle with me in terms of my performance and staying healthy. And I pray that continues to go on for a few more years, because I really enjoy what I'm doing. And it's kind of like Tom Brady said, once you get to the kind of the end of your career, it's fun because you kind of have all the answers. You spend most of your career trying to figure out how to do it well. And then if your body can hold up and you're still doing it, you kind of know everything. And so then it becomes easy. So I'm kind of finding myself, I certainly don't know everything, but there's a lot. I've seen just about everything now. And so I want to be able to keep doing this and take advantage of that.
Yes or no? Are you still snapping over 40 miles an hour?
This off season, I hit 40 a couple times.
We're still good.
That in my snapping training, I got to 40. So I did get to it again. I forgot. I was like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "Oh yeah, my snapper training."
Yeah.
I got to 40 a couple times this year. I'd like to get to 41. That'd be a big deal for me this offseason.
I regrettably have to end this.
We could go on for all day, but then you'd have to pay my fine because I got a meeting in like 2 minutes.
Questions, but nevertheless, JJ Jansen.
I will say this. I'll add one thing. My favorite part of the Bryce interview was when he asked about MapQuest. He asked I don't know if you've seen this part, but he asked about MapQuest, and he said, well, back when you guys had MapQuest, if you got offline, what would you guys do? If you missed a turn, would you just get a hotel? And I was like, wow, you guys think generationally, it's like, oh my gosh, that generation between me and him feels as big as probably when I was a kid, me and my parents. So again, that's one of the values of Cart Talk is you get to build some bonds.
Absolutely.
So,
JJ, thanks for coming on. He's JJ. I'm Chris Jenkins. Thank you all for watching.
Appreciate it.
Let's take those.